Hello, this is Brian from the Bad Manners Podcast. This reaction video is going to be from one by Classic Halo Commentary. It's titled, I'm Sick of Our Low Trust Society. I've talked at length in previous videos about low trust societies and how they're derived from heterogeneous cultures, so this is something near and dear to my heart. I'm curious to see how it manifests for him. Let's get into it.
Oh, I want to go on a little bit of a rant today about our low trust society and how I'm sick and tired of terrible people ruining and inconveniencing the lives of us normal people who follow the rules and do the right things. And I think I hit my breaking point when I was shopping at Walmart and Aldi's, and especially when I was visiting Orlando. But when I was at Walmart and Aldi's, I was constantly being recorded. At every single turn, I saw a camera.
Wow, he went a very different version from what comes to mind when I'm grocery shopping. The thing that I see in the grocery store that drives me up a wall is all of a sudden the community I live in has no shortage of people that will like take from the sushi thing and they'll walk around the store and they'll be eating it and then they'll put it on a shelf somewhere. Or people just snacking on the produce and then putting it somewhere, and it's like, what has this society even become? I watched this one guy one time. He actually ate more than half of the grapes in the bag, and of course just put the bag back. And these behaviors are absolutely unfathomable to me. And this is the kind of stuff that, for me, that's what I think of when I think low trust society. It's people whose values, morals, and ethics are completely divorced from the traditional behaviors that I grew up with when I was younger. But let's continue to see what he's on about.
In my face, me being recorded, and I was sitting there thinking, I now live in a mass surveillance state, and they can get away with it because they can just say it's, because of the crime or things like that. And when I was in Orlando, the disgusting state that this fucking city's in now because of, low trust individuals, it just made me sick to my stomach. And it's all these small things.
I let it go past a bit, but he mentioned that all this low trust behavior is part of the reason that we've now got surveillance cameras everywhere. And boy, isn't that a problem reaction solution way to enable a behavior that traditional Americans in, let's say, the 1950s just wouldn't have tolerated whatsoever. Like, obviously the technology didn't exist then, but nobody would have liked the idea of the government being able to surveil their every move. And now it's just accepted as something you got to do because, well, there's going to be a theft somewhere nearby. There's just far too many people that are stealing all the time.
That I'm going to talk about that is finally just added up and made a big deal where my life is just completely inconvenienced at this point, and honestly a lot of normal people are getting sick and tired of it. And all of these issues I'm going to discuss are very rampant in Orlando, and I don't live in Orlando, but I visit it frequently, and literally outside of the Disney or Universal areas, Orlando is just a shithole in all aspects. Just being
Oh, that describes the major cities in my state now, too. I swear, the state I'm in, it used to be red. Now it's considered purple. But within the cities, you get Democrat leadership, and I kid you not, once you start getting even remotely left-adjacent leadership, they don't actually manage anything. They just come up with many new social programs that they're going to throw tax dollars at, but they won't do basic things that had never been a problem before, like maintain the roads. But yeah, American cities are just rotting within, and it's the quote leadership unquote that we have two political parties, and they obviously both have severe problems, and especially as you get up to the national level of politics, they are serving interests, not really the American people. But when you get into the more local politics, there's a really simple reality that everybody needs to understand. If you want things to function, at a local level, elect Republicans. If you want to profit off of graft and corruption, elect Democrats, because Democrats cannot run municipalities with any degree of positive outcomes that occur consistently. And at this point, I'd argue that if they do occur with positive consistency, you're a very lucky outlier.
Completely blunt. And honestly, all of our major cities across the board are turning into shitholes and unlivable places because of our low trust society.
I normally save this for the end of the video. He could say a bunch of nonsense the remaining way out. Give him your likes, comments, subscribes. He's correct. And what's funny is this process has been in the work for decades. As these various major cities in the United States have become Democrat-led, and not just led, but often supermajority-led within that area, they run everything straight into the ground. They're so caught up when trying to placate civil rights needs and social justice that the actual logistical necessities to leading a city are lost on them entirely. It's not in their actual skill sets, ever. Now, do note that if you got rhino politicians that are like weak-kneed on crime, for example, then you can get similar outcomes. It's just when it comes to local politics, there's no good argument for Democrats to be had at all. They mess it up every time. And anybody that thinks that it's going well are usually the people off in gated communities that don't have to worry about any of the actual suffering that poor leadership brings about.
And I feel like it's slowly happened and it's creeped in, and for the most part, I'm shielded from it because I don't live there. But a lot of people are becoming blind to it, and they shouldn't be, and we should not have to live this way. So the first thing I'm going to discuss is theft. The rampant amount of thievery going on has made our lives so inconvenienced. Like when I was at Walmart the other day, or Aldi's, the amount of stuff that was locked behind glass where I had to go get a cashier or someone to unlock it to get a thing of fucking toothpaste is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, that's what's going on with the stores with stuff being locked up. That is your leading indicator that the social contract was shattered, that there is no longer a cultural consensus when it concerns theft. Cultural homogeneity just died at some point. And of course, I've talked about in other reasons, I'm firmly convinced that mass migration has a lot to do with that, because you take in large numbers of people whose moral and ethical systems are very different than your own, and it's a natural expectation at that point. But some of it is just media organs promoting behaviors that are anti-civilization.
The fact that I have to, we have to live in a society where we can't grab basic shit off a shelf without having it locked behind glass. And this is, horrible in Orlando. It was really bad when I was in Washington, D.C., because outside of Capitol Hill, D.C. is a shithole in itself. But literally almost everything was locked behind glass. So, it inconveniences me to have to sit there and find people. And even tiny things. Like when I was in Orlando eating at a restaurant, I was served with paper cups, and I asked the waitress, why is this? And she said, it's because people keep stealing the glasses.
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet, but that's just a matter of time. Once a person's value system allows for theft, and it's now part of, you'll call it their operating system, there's anything not bolted down can be taken. Look at South Africa. Civilization during the apartheid state, post-apartheid state, the people in leadership now have entirely different priorities. And you cannot have civilization where a large amount of people believe that this stuff is okay. And as he mentioned earlier, no, we don't have to live this way. But we suffer, in particular, the leftists that go light on these criminals. Democrats go push for legislation that makes crime less harshly punished than it should be. Leftist judges will see the skin color of somebody and be like, oh, you poor thing, it's not your fault you stole, it's the system is oppressing you. What choice could you possibly have? Just, you can't have a country with people where you have a significant number of leftists that want to collapse the system anyway, and because they think system is bad, they'll excuse any number of behaviors from the people that are really just pulling out the foundation of civilization.
The fact that I cannot drink out of a fucking glass when I'm at a restaurant because people keep stealing it shows the state that society's in, and it's not just Orlando, because I don't want to sit there and nitpick it. Like I said, DC is just as bad. In San Francisco, you have people sit there, having quotes saying, when I park my car, I leave my window down, so at least when I'm robbed, they don't shatter my windshield or my, side windows.
So, one of the time periods in American history I'm greatly fond of is actually the Wild West, because justice had to be frequently quite brutal due to how untamed everything was. But that brutality had an efficiency in its own way. So, for example, you steal a horse, you would be hanged. The pendulum is swung so thoroughly away from harsh justice that at this point I firmly believe the only way you can reasonably get a functioning civilization back is you are going to have to swing that understanding of justice all the way back to the extreme right. Well, or extreme left. It's a pendulum. You can make up your mind what direction it's going. But it wouldn't matter if those punishments just became downright draconian. It has to be enough that it detours people from actually engaging in these behaviors.
Well, and the fact that that is a real quote is just fucking pathetic. That the fact that they know their car is going to be robbed and they don't do anything about it, and they just say, I'd rather just not have to pay for my windshield and just deal with people breaking into my car. It's fucking crazy. We have stores leaving in mass exodus because they can't handle all the theft, and what ends up happening when this happens is the companies just pass the buck on to us, and our products that we buy go up in price because people keep stealing all this shit. Restaurants and things like that.
That's actually a fair point too. Yeah, you have the businesses that just pull out. I did a video recently on a community that was accusing the Walgreens of a crime for pulling out in response to the fact theft made profitability pretty much impossible. And yet that whole community, rather than being like, hey guys, I think we got a problem and we should do something about how our community keeps stealing, they're like, yeah, no, Walgreens is committing a crime, and you know what? We know stealing happens, and sure it's bad, but it's gonna just happen anyway. It's like, Jesus Christ. And yeah, costs do go up as a response to the fact that they gotta try and profit somehow. So the people that are actually honest end up eating it in the end.
Or even catering to drive-thrus now because they don't want to deal with people coming in, damaging shit and loitering and all this stuff. We deal with the increased prices to offset the theft. And it's at the point where I saw a video where the purple mattresses, people are literally stealing the purple mattress thing out of the box because, they're kind enough to have a little hole in the box so you could feel what the mattress feels like to see if it's comfortable. They're stealing it piece by piece, and they're recording themselves fucking committing the crime, and nothing's done about it. And it's going to, because of that, I'm sure Purple is going to change the way they package their products, and I'm sure the products are going to go up.
I said this in a different video. If we had an entirely different political system and I could get one law through, I think the first one might be businesses are allowed to enforce private property rights and they're allowed to put a bullet in thieves. Because as far as civilization is concerned, that'll be a addition by subtraction. These people filming it, no shame, just unconscionable.
Up in price, again, for us normal people, because, the degenerate society we live in can't go a second without robbing shit or causing mass pandemonium. And then, because of this, as I stated earlier in the video, I am under constant surveillance, being recorded every fucking where I go. This was really the thing that set me off the most, is when I was in the grocery store or Walmart, everywhere I'm going, I am being recorded. I live in a mass surveillance world, and the fact that they can get away with it because they can use crime as a scapegoat, and I can't argue it. The fact that crime is so rampant, they have to have all these cameras up, even though that's not the main purpose for it. It's just to, spy on us and, keep tabs on us. But the fact that they're having to do this, and they...
I mentioned problem, reaction, solution earlier. Obviously, there are a lot of entities of potentially malevolent purpose that would love nothing more than to be able to surveil everyone because, data is monetizable. So all it takes is a problem being theft. People naturally react, hey, theft is bad, do something about theft. And they're like, hey, we got this solution you might like. Here's some surveillance equipment.
Can use crime as the reason. I can't argue it. People are scumbags and they steal all this shit all the time. So,
well, the kicker is a lot of these people doing the stealing come in wearing masks and stuff, and the business can't really do anything to make sure they're not disguising their identity. It's all a farce. So it's really just the surveillance is for the people that are conducting their business normally.
Because of that, we live under a constant surveillance state, and I'm fucking sick and tired of it. The theft in this country is so bad, especially in the major cities. It's inconceivable to think that so many people, and again, I know there's far more people that don't commit crimes than do, but the fact that this...
You don't need like 50% of the population. It can take just 5% of the population and social order begins to break down severely. That'd be 1 out of every 20 people being a thief. And I'm not saying that theft is necessarily that high, but it's going to continue to increase because there's not sufficient consequences for doing it. And at a certain point, you can't have any coherent civilization. You'll have to be so busy watchdogging your own stuff that engaging in other activities becomes a personal risk. Only high-trust societies can possibly move forward because they don't have to waste their time making sure their neighbor's not going to be stealing their stuff.
This happens so much that some cities just don't even give a shit is just fucking crazy to me. And I feel like us as a society needs to stand up and say, enough with this bullshit. Let's crack down on crime hard because it's ruining and inconveniencing our lives. And as I stated, it's the little things that are adding up. The next thing is, the online hacking and needing a million safeguards for passwords or to log into things just because they think people are going to try to hack you. And there's constantly scammers everywhere trying to rip you the fuck off because they're lazy as fuck and don't want to earn their money by themselves. So they're just going to try to rip you off. And I had so many things this past week that annoyed me because, like I said, I was on vacation and I wasn't at work, and trying to log into my work email because I got a text that I had to do something for work, and I didn't have my little Duo fob with me, so I couldn't get into my...
Oh, I hate those things. Never mind that sometimes there's weird stuff that goes on with the browser when you're trying to, synchronize it or what. God, I hate those things. Had to use it for college. Man, I really tried to get them to allow any other alternative means, but they force it upon you.
Email, and I couldn't get into my Skyward account to actually, or Canvas, to sit there and actually get my work done because my fob Duo was, miles away, and I couldn't get in. There was nothing I could do, and I have to live like this.
Try a fob dying. That one's fun. Then you have it on hand, it's just useless.
Simple password is not enough because scumbags sit there and try to hack everyone all the time, and people are terrified of it. So I have to have a million different security codes. When I log into my college email or my regular email, I have to sit there and say, here's this number you get texted, and you have to go on and fucking click yes and have your iPhone scan your face to say you can log on. It's so fucking annoying. And my mom honestly had the biggest thing that happened to this. A couple months ago, someone stole my mom's identity and ruined their life for a few months. And just because some lazy ass fucking bum doesn't want to work and get a job. They're just going to try to, inconvenience everyone else and pretty much ruin someone's life and make them paranoid for months and months on end. And I don't blame them for being it, because they went through a, huge thing. And when I say this, you aren't fucking Robin Hood.
Identity theft's another one of those ones where they catch the person. Sometimes they catch the person. Nothing meaningful happens. Realistically, all that should happen is a tall tree and a short rope.
When you go on there and rob from people and say, I'm going to steal from this company or I'm going to scam these people, you're not Robin Hood. You're not robbing from, rich people. You're just a fucking scumbag that doesn't want to earn their money. And I'm sick and tired, again, these small things adding up over time. Now, this is where I'm going to speak about Orlando the most. And honestly, it's the point where being in public is disgusting now and just disgusts you. You constantly have to look over your shoulder for sketchy people who are up to no good, walking up to you, begging for money, asking for help or trying to, rob you or scam you or...
Haven't really dealt with anybody asking for money, but sketchy people trying to scam you, yep. That's a public occasion now.
Tell you some kind of bullshit or just say how I just need $20 for this. I'm just down on my luck.
Oh man, yeah, okay, that one's got me before. Was at a gas station, and the vehicle I have a kink in the fuel hose. At least that's what I think it is, because putting in gas to my vehicle took a really, really, really long time. So I was gonna be there a while anytime I had to get gas. So this guy's like, oh, hey man, I just need $20 for gas, so we can make it back to California. I'm like, all right, yeah, sure, dude. I was feeling generous. The van he's in never even bothers to pull up to a gas pump to pretend. I think he just assumed I'd be gone before this, but no. He goes in there, presumably used it just to buy snacks and whatever. Gets in the van, and he actually is just looking at me as his van pulls out onto the road as I'm still getting gas. And I'm like, this is the last time in my life that I will ever give money to that population.
It's fucking annoying. And you couple that with how disgusting the streets are. They're dirty as shit because people litter all the litter and dump their trash.
Litter's a real problem. And if there is one area that is distinctly Western civilization, we've always been on the really cleanly side of things, and we have, whether it's in Europe or the United States, the traditional cultures were very throw away your trash. Enough of a priority that littering is frequently just a crime. And we've imported no shortage of people. That's not a cultural priority to them at all. The world is their trash can as far as they're concerned, or the trash is just somebody else's problem. And I watch it, and I'm just sitting here like, God, this is not the country I grew up in. We got all these foreigners just in here throwing their trash wherever. The one that really, really pisses me off, because I live in a rural location, you will have some of these newly minted migrants that will actually drive out to rural locations and just do flat out trash dumps, because presumably they don't want to pay a trash collection bill or something in the city. But oh man, yeah, it just ain't the same.
Trash everywhere because they're too lazy to find a garbage can to throw it out in. Again, low trust society and just low IQ individuals ruining life for everyone else. Every other country that I see, like Japan, Russia, things like that, their downtowns are beautiful, immaculate. There's not trash at all. But you look at all the major cities in the US, it's literally just a cesspit. Trash everywhere. There's literally human shit on the sidewalks because there's people that just take dumps on the sidewalks instead of going to a public restroom, and no one cares. It's crazy.
We've imported cultures where doing that is okay. Yeah, we have issues with Americans that are like drug addicts or homeless, and they've taken to doing that recently, which is weird. But we actually have imported cultures where just copping a squat wherever is the move. And we're supposed to believe that we're just taking them in. We're increasing GDP. Life is getting better. And it's like, no, it's not. Send them back.
Crazy. There's literally in some cities like sanitation crews that have to go around to sit there and clean up human shit. Like when I said I was in Orlando recently, when I was walking around, I won't say where it was, but when I was walking around the sidewalk, there was literally a dude just pissing in broad daylight right in downtown Orlando. And the fact that I have to witness all this shit is just annoying as fuck. The other aspect of this is just the open drug use. The amount of times I...
Oh, yeah. The funny part is when I was younger, I was very strongly libertarian, and libertarians are anti-drug war. But now seeing what it looks like, where there's just open drug use everywhere, it's like, if you try going lax on it and this is the result, then is your position really a good one? Because all it does by going soft on drugs or legalizing them or whatever, it just creates an economic market for what is essentially a poison pusher. I don't know what healthy civilization's like. You've identified a business. Your business is going to be pushing poison on the people that makes them worse human beings in all way. But it's their choice. I mean, yeah. I'm more on board with the Singapore model. Drug dealers should just be disposed of quickly and efficiently.
I see people doing drugs out in the open in Orlando is absolutely insane, and it's just allowed. Like, no one gives a fuck. It's crazy to me that I have to witness it. I don't understand. Besides just the rampant drug use, the cities being dirty as fuck, it's just, sketchy people everywhere. It's just frustrating. And even when I was out at an arcade with my brother, I think I was with my brother. I've been to the arcade a few times. One of the last times I went to the arcade, there's two 40-year-old men with children arguing, cursing at each other, and threatening to shoot each other over an arcade game. And the fact that it made me have to be on edge and worry about this is just tiring at this point. And whenever they started arguing, and as soon as I heard I'm just gonna take this outside, or I'm strapped, I was like, again, these scumbag people arguing and going to this lengths when there's children around too at a fucking arcade shows where we're at as a society. And I'm just sick and tired of having to share a common space with these types of people. And then the final thing is the fact that when some kind of issue happens, whether it be like a big storm, like a hurricane or something like that, damages things, or if anything political happens, you can just guarantee and know that the low trust society is going to go out and take advantage of this stuff. They're going to go out, start burning buildings, looting.
Yeah. I cannot help but wonder what Americans in the early 1900s would have done in response to, widespread practice of such behaviors. I know for sure the further you go back in time, the more and more likely it'd become the military would come in, just flat out kill some of the rabble rousers. Anybody that's a leader or tangential to looking like a leader, they're going to be facing the gallows, and the world would be better for it in the end. But now we're in this age where we're always showing mercy to the guilty, which is cruelty to the innocent, and all semblance of civilization is just eroding around us.
Robbing places, it's just, everything you could think of. Ruining the town they're in, it's crazy. And people sit there and say, oh, it's on this side or that side. No, both sides of the spectrum overreact to this bullshit. Or when it's, like I said, a storm happens too, there's looting, robbing, burning down buildings, all this bullshit ensues, and you just know, like clockwork, this shit is gonna happen. It's just funny to me. And no other place that I know of deals with this stuff. And the fact that we have to, again, like I said, it's just tiring at this point. It's just a disgrace to see that when something happens, people take advantage of it and ruin the lives of hardworking people that just have businesses. You know, because it's really the saddest thing is seeing the mom and pop places getting burned down, getting robbed, breaking in the window, stealing shit. It's pathetic. And the saddest thing is people defend all of this. Defend it all, especially the theft and the looting and things like that. The theft is the one that pisses me off the most, to be honest, because that's just the catalyst for it all. And people defend it. They say shit like they don't have anything to eat, so they have to steal.
Oh, that is the Mott and Bailey of all theft rationalization. They're like, but if somebody has to survive, stealing to eat's okay. No, it's not. There are other methods available to get that food. Especially in the United States, you got charity, you got food banks, you've got EBT. I mean, if you've got neighbors, you could ask them, hey, can I do something for you for some bread? But no, they default to doing the absolute worst behavior, which forgoes any need of doing the other behaviors. And once you've given even that speck that, okay, there's some legitimacy to this action, they're going to immediately take that inch and run it a mile. Which is exactly what's happened.
But when you see all the videos, they're stealing electronics, TVs, jewelry, you know, anything but food. They sit there and say that these big corporations deserve.
That's the Mott and Bailey. They just set a precedence for how thievery is okay, and then they try to extend this position out to, you know, why it's more generally applicable. It's still a logical fallacy, but it doesn't stop them. Because keep in mind, when these people are stealing electronics and the like, they just switch the narrative to, well, the people stealing have been systemically oppressed. And they've been systemically oppressed by the rich. So, and the rich can afford those losses. So they'll run off a list of rationale or reasons.
It. They don't understand that they're harming themselves in the long run. They're making shit more expensive. They're making our life less convenient, again, by having fucking things locked behind glass, mass surveillance, needing a...
The vast majority of people that sit around making these excuses for it are either the ones involved in it themselves, or it's the people in gated communities that aren't really concerned with any of this nonsense because they're wealthy enough to stay out of it.
Million different passwords to log into things, just small things that add up over time to the point where we can't even have a fucking glass at a restaurant because people can't steal it, and people will still find a way to defend it. It's so sad, and our government placates, and it's soft on crime, soft on theft.
Don't say our government. It's leftist. Of all flavors, it's leftist. If it's got a D to its next to its name, you can bet money that person is softer than tissue paper on crime. Democrats think the system is systematically oppressive against anybody that's not a straight white male. And because the system's oppressing them, well, they have no choice but to engage in immoral or unethical behaviors or even to commit outright crimes. Because it's not their fault, it's the system's fault. It's baked into their whole ideology.
Don't put these people in jail, don't overreact, and they just make excuses, just like everyone else does. And instead of cracking the whip and actually solving the problem, they just want the problem to, you know, ensue, and they don't care because they don't want to possibly upset these people that go out and riot and burn and loot and do all this stuff. So they just placate to them, and our society falls further and further into a disgraceful place until we're at a place where we're at now. The saddest thing is it doesn't have to be like this. Like when I go to my gym, I don't need to use a locker. There's just a cubby. I can put my wallet, my phone, my keys, and you know what? No one ever touches it. Because it's a paid gym that's a very expensive gym, so these low-trust people, the low-trust society, you know, the scumbags that we have to share the world with, aren't there. So you don't have to deal with it. There's, you know, normal people and high-caliber people that go there, and I don't have to deal with people stealing my shit, coming up to me, asking me all this crap, and society could be this way. Like, imagine how great the world would be if you just...
The kicker is, we've had it before. But the 1960s is about the area where all of these new understandings of justice and who's oppressing who and systematic oppression and or racism. 1960s is the true beginning vector point for all this stuff that began rolling downhill. It was the first point in time where you began to see significant numbers of leftists that had successfully infiltrated institutions. And they began shifting the minds of the younger generations into an understanding of concepts like justice that were entirely divorced from anything that existed throughout human history.
Didn't have to deal with the low trust society that we have. Imagine if we could just live in a world where there is no theft, there's no scumbags destroying our cities, making them dirty as fuck, shitting on the sidewalk, threatening to shoot each other. Imagine if we could just log on to a website and not have to do a million different loopholes and safeguards so no one hacks it. Society could be so amazing, but the fact that people just placate, and we have a government that placates to the low trust society we live in, is just sad. And when I go to the gym, it's just a small escape from this because I'm surrounded by people that are, just good dudes. And a lot of the time, like I said, most people don't engage in this behavior, but enough people do that it's slowly eroding the social fabric we have. No one trusts each other anymore because of this, and, for good reason. Because, again, like I said, people are threatening to shoot each other over arcade games when kids are around and cursing at each other and saying all these horrible things.
Well, only high-trust societies are going to have enough social decorum that adults are going to comport themselves appropriately around children. I have no doubt the individuals he's describing, it wasn't even a specter in their mind that they were doing anything inappropriate.
I just can't stand it, and I wish that we could go back to a time when all this wasn't going on.
I enjoyed the hell out of that video. Sometimes it's just fun to have a little catharsis and just rant about things that suck. And yeah, the ranting in itself doesn't actually make anything better. It's not going to change the world. But it just feels kind of nice to do it once in a while. Being more serious, low trust societies are of no benefit to anyone other than thieves and criminals in general, because they're the only ones materially benefiting from the circumstances. But it just guarantees that over time, things become grossly more dysfunctional. Things that should have been efficient and productive become arduous, tedious, and possibly not even growth-oriented. Instead, you end up just kind of treading water instead of being able to, do things more productive because you're constantly watching your six. And like I mentioned earlier, I've spoken about it at length in other videos. Cultural heterogeneity directly creates low-trust societies because there's no common cultural consensus among the population. Person A might have a different set of morals and ethics, B, same deal, and there's just so much variation. There is no way you can reliably expect a certain set of behaviors from anybody. But you look at a country like Japan, they know what they can reasonably expect of their countrymen because they're all operating within the same understood cultural consensus. There's a right and a wrong for them that they all generally agree on. And that cultural agreement that comes about from absolute cultural hegemony creates a stable, prosperous society that can actually get things done. So instead of having to solve problems that shouldn't be widespread social problems like theft, they can shift their attention to solving major social problems, such as, it could be anything. It could even be left-leaning priorities like healthcare. But no, you can't solve any of that when you're sitting here having to look after the absolute lowest, most trivial things, because at any moment a person might just violate your property or even yourself. So I'm glad. I don't know how this video got recommended. The channel's a bit out of left field for me, but this was fun. Maybe I'll react to more of his in the future. So give him a like, comment, subscribe, because it's obvious his head is screwed on straight. If you did happen to like anything I said, like, comment, subscribe. If you didn't like anything I said, leave a comment. I'll discuss it with you. Maybe there's somebody that wants to defend some of this nonsense. Other than that, have a good night.